Welcome to Finance Brunch. You know, every year, India's union budget grabs all the headlines. But honestly, the real story, the one that's way more interesting, happens long before any cameras start rolling. It's a fascinating tale of intense secrecy, deep-rooted tradition, and a nation that's really defining its own financial identity on the world stage.
So how does a country with over 1.4 billion people keep its most important financial plan under wraps? Well, it's this incredible mix of ceremony and what I can only describe as a high-stakes security operation. So let's peel back those layers and find out what's really going on behind the scenes.
All right, so here's what we're going to cover. We're going to take you deep inside the whole budget process. I mean, right from a single top-secret document, all the way to the grand finale in Parliament. You'll get to see exactly how a nation's financial future is first shaped in total secrecy and then revealed with all that fanfare. Okay, let's kick things off. The entire budget process, and I mean all of it, starts with just one single top-secret document. It's called the Blue Sheet. You can almost think of this sheet as the budget's DNA. Seriously, every single number on it represents a massive policy decision. And that's exactly why its confidentiality is the absolute highest priority. It is guarded, get this, by just one person, the Joint Secretary of the Budget, who literally cannot let it out of their sight. They can't even take it home. And it's just this tiny core group of top officials who ever even gets to see the Blue Sheet. We're talking the finance minister, top secretaries. This is the inner circle. Every single decision they make, every negotiation, it all gets reflected on this one document. So it's like this living, breathing snapshot of what the final budget is going to look like. So the big question is, how on earth do they protect these massive secrets? Well, it's this really fascinating blend of age-old tradition and some pretty extreme modern security measures. Believe it or not, it all kicks off with a sweet tradition, literally. It's called the Halwa ceremony. But what comes next is, well, it's anything but sweet. About 100 officials go into a complete and total lockdown. We're talking completely cut off from the outside world. No phones, no internet, no contact with anyone, not even their families, until the moment the budget is officially announced in Parliament. And the security during this lock-in is absolutely intense. It's not just a suggestion. We're talking monitored phones, constant surveillance by the Intelligence Bureau, the whole 9 yards. Now, you might think this is paranoia, but it's not. It's a lesson learned the hard way after a major budget leak way back in 1950. That leak actually forced them to move the entire printing operation to a secure underground location.
You know, a lot of the budget's oldest traditions were actually holdovers from the British Raj. But what's really interesting is that over the last few decades, India has been systematically and very deliberately dismantling that colonial legacy. Okay, check this out. For more than 50 years, India's budget was presented at 5 p.m. And why? Purely for the convenience of London's business hours. It wasn't until 1999 that this tradition was finally broken, and the time was shifted to a more sensible 11 a.m. And you gotta understand, this was way more than just a time change. It was a powerful statement of financial independence.
And that move to 11 a.m., that was just the beginning of the changes. I mean, in less than 2 decades, the budget got a complete overhaul. The 92-year-old practice of a separate railway budget, gone, merged into the main budget. And the presentation date itself was moved up from the end of February to the 1st. It was all about making the process more efficient and, frankly, more relevant to India's own governance cycle.
But, you know, maybe the most visible change of all, the one everyone sees on the news, has been in the very object used to carry the budget documents to Parliament.
For what, 70 years? The finance minister would always carry the budget in a leather briefcase, a tradition that was a direct copy of Britain's Gladstone box. But then, in 2019, that all changed. The briefcase was gone, and in its place, a bahi-khata, a traditional Indian ledger. It was a huge symbolic break from those colonial roots.
The finance minister at the time, Nirmala Sitharaman, said it herself. The change was about breaking from that colonial hangover. It was a really powerful symbolic moment. But the story doesn't even stop there.
Because just 2 years later, in 2021, the bahi-khata itself evolved again. The budget went fully paperless for the very first time. So the documents were presented on a made-in-India digital tablet, which was then wrapped in a bahi-khata-style pouch. It's just a perfect blend of tradition and technology, right? A pretty powerful metaphor for a nation that's honoring its past while racing into the digital future.
All right, so after all that secrecy and preparation, the big day arrives. And once the budget goes public, the speech itself becomes this historic event,
often setting some pretty incredible records.
So, let's talk records. The record for the longest budget speech by word count, that goes to Dr. Manmohan Singh for his groundbreaking 1991 budget. We're talking 18,650 words. But more importantly, this was the speech that kicked off India's economic liberalization. It literally changed the course of the country. Now, the longest speech by time, that's a different story. That record belongs to Nirmala Sitharaman. In 2020, her speech lasted a grueling 2 hours and 40 minutes. And in a pretty dramatic moment, she actually had to cut it short with 2 pages still to go because she was feeling unwell.
But let's go back to that 1991 speech for a second, because Dr. Singh ended it with a quote that has since become absolutely iconic in India's economic history. He said, "No power on earth can stop an idea whose time has come." Just a perfect line, capturing the spirit of a nation ready for a massive change. So, from a top-secret blue sheet of paper to a completely paperless proclamation on a tablet, the union budget is so much more than numbers. It's really a story of secrecy, of powerful symbolism, and of a nation that is constantly defining its own future. The next time you watch the finance minister's speech, you'll know the incredible journey that brought it to that very moment.
We're Finance Brunch, your financial knowledge partner. Thanks so much for joining us.